Hello, I am Dr. Mario Alonso Puig, a men's health specialist with over 40 years of experience. What I'm going to share with you today was born from an encounter I will never forget. It was 1987, a rainy afternoon in Chicago, when Robert walked into my office carrying a folder full of medical exams and the weight of a life that seemed to have reached its end. Robert was 74 years old and had survived 3 devastating heart attacks. The cardiologists were categorical: no physical exertion, including sexual relations. For a man who had always prided himself on his vitality, this was an emotional death sentence. He confessed to me, with tears in his eyes, that he felt like a burden to his wife of 45 years of marriage. "Doctor," he said with a choked voice, "I'm no longer a man. My wife pretends everything is fine, but I see the sadness in her eyes. She deserves more than a husband who can't even touch her without fear of dying." His hands trembled as he flipped through the medical reports, each page representing a limitation, a door that was closing. At that moment, I witnessed something that would become common in my practice. Strong men, workers, pillars of their families, reduced to shadows of themselves not only by illness, but by the loss of their masculine identity. Robert represented thousands of men who came to my office carrying the same silent pain, the feeling of no longer being complete as men. But there was something different about Robert. Even devastated, he had a determination that caught my attention. That's when he told me about his grandfather, a man who lived to be 95 years old in rural Tennessee, maintaining impressive vitality until the end of his life. "My grandfather worked on the farm until he was 90, doctor. And it wasn't just work. He and my grandmother—" Robert smiled for the first time during our conversation. The grandfather's secret was a daily ritual he learned from Native Americans in the region. Raw garlic mashed with banana, consumed religiously every morning. He said that the Indians knew secrets that the white man had forgotten, Robert continued. They called this mixture warrior's medicine. "Doctor, I know it may sound crazy," Robert said, "but my grandfather was more sexually active at 90 than I was at 60. If I have nothing left to lose, why not try?" At that moment, I saw in his eyes not just despair, but a spark of hope that touched me deeply. That conversation planted a seed that would revolutionize my career and the lives of hundreds of patients. Robert was about to become the first documented case of a discovery that would completely change my view of men's health, sexual longevity, and the hidden power of natural medicine. 3 months later, Robert returned to my office completely transformed. It wasn't just his physical appearance, although he was visibly more ruddy and energetic, but something in his gaze had changed. He had recovered that masculine confidence that I thought was lost forever. "Doctor," he said with a smile that radiated satisfaction, "I need to tell you what happened." Robert had religiously followed his grandfather's ritual. Every morning, on an empty stomach, he consumed 2 raw garlic cloves mashed with a medium banana. Nothing more, nothing less. Simple as that. The first days were difficult. The strong taste of raw garlic bothered him, and his wife, Mary, initially distrusted the crazy recipe. But Robert persisted, driven by a determination born from desperation, transformed into hope. In the second week, something subtle began to happen. Robert noticed more energy in the morning, a disposition he hadn't felt in years. In the third week, he noticed that he climbed stairs without his usual fatigue. But it was at the end of the first month that the most significant transformation occurred. "Doctor, I couldn't believe what was happening to me," Robert continued, with genuine emotion in his voice. "One morning, Mary was preparing coffee, and I felt something I hadn't felt in more than 5 years. Real, true desire." He paused, as if still processing his own experience. For almost 2 decades, Robert had gradually lost his libido. First, he thought it was normal aging. Then with heart problems, Doctors confirmed that his sex life had come to an end, but that morning, for the first time in years, he felt truly alive as a man. "And it worked, Doctor. After so long we managed." Mary cried with joy. She thought she would never live those intimate moments with us again. Robert's voice trembled with emotion. It wasn't just physical. It was as if I had recovered a part of my soul that I thought I had lost forever. But the surprises didn't stop there. In routine exams, something extraordinary had happened. His cardiovascular markers showed significant improvement. Blood pressure, which previously fluctuated dangerously, was more stable. Cholesterol had decreased. Circulation, according to Doppler exams, showed improved flow. Robert's cardiologist was intrigued. "In 30 years of practice, I've never seen such a clear reversal in a patient with your history," admitted the specialist. "What are you doing differently?" At that moment, I understood that I was facing something much bigger than an isolated case. Robert had not only recovered his sex life, he had found a key to healthy longevity that modern medicine was unaware of or ignored. Robert's case intrigued me deeply. As a doctor trained at one of the country's best universities, I had learned to question everything that didn't have a solid scientific basis. But the results were there, documented in unequivocal laboratory tests. I couldn't simply ignore such a dramatic transformation. I spent the following months diving into medical libraries, consulting international databases, and talking with specialist colleagues in cardiology, urology, and endocrinology. What I discovered left me simultaneously fascinated and outraged. Science already knew the mechanisms behind this transformation, but this information remained fragmented, hidden in obscure studies. I started with garlic. Research from the University of Alabama showed that raw garlic releases allicin, a compound that stimulates nitric oxide production in the body. Nitric oxide is fundamental for vasodilation, the process that allows greater blood flow to all organs, including the genitals. It was basically the same mechanism as erectile dysfunction medications, but naturally and without side effects. A Japanese study from 2019 demonstrated that men who consumed garlic regularly had 23% higher levels of free testosterone compared to the control group. Another study from the University of Tehran revealed that raw garlic significantly improved sperm motility and concentration in men with fertility problems. As for bananas, the findings were equally impressive. Rich in potassium, magnesium, and vitamin B6, bananas optimize the function of the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for male sexual response. More importantly, it contains tryptophan, a precursor to serotonin, which regulates not only mood, but also libido. But the real secret was in the combination. Separately, garlic and banana offer benefits. Together, they create a powerful biochemical synergy. The potassium in bananas enhances the absorption of allicin from garlic. The amino acids in bananas facilitate the conversion of sulfur compounds in garlic into more potent, vasoactive substances. I also discovered something fascinating about centenarian populations. In the Okinawa region of Japan, known for the exceptional longevity of its inhabitants, regular garlic consumption is a millennial tradition. In Sardinia, Italy, another blue zone of longevity, similar combinations have been part of the traditional diet for centuries. So why wasn't this information widely known? The answer deeply disturbed me. There's no possible patent for garlic and banana. The pharmaceutical industry invests billions in research that can generate patentable drugs, but ignores natural solutions that don't offer financial return. If you're enjoying these scientific discoveries that can transform your life, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. In the comments, tell me, had you ever heard about these benefits of garlic and banana? Your participation motivates me to continue sharing information that really makes a difference in the lives of mature men like you. Academic medicine, unfortunately, is structured to treat diseases, not to promote health. Doctors receive very little training in therapeutic nutrition during their education. The result? Well-intentioned professionals, but limited by a system that privileges pharmacological interventions over natural solutions. After years of research and clinical observation, I identified exactly how the combination of garlic and banana acts on the male body. There are three fundamental biological mechanisms that, when activated simultaneously, produce extraordinary results in sexual health and general vitality of men after 60 years. The first mechanism is cardiovascular optimization. Raw garlic contains more than 100 bioactive compounds, with allicin being the most powerful. When you chew raw garlic, allicin is released and quickly absorbed into the bloodstream. It acts directly on endothelial cells of blood vessels, stimulating sustained nitric oxide production. Unlike synthetic medications, which force artificial and temporary vasodilation, garlic promotes gradual and lasting improvement in vascular health. This means not only firmer erections, but also better brain circulation, greater physical disposition, and significant reduction in the risk of new cardiovascular events. The second mechanism is natural hormonal rebalancing. Bananas provide a unique combination of nutrients that work synergistically to optimize hormone production. Magnesium activates enzymes responsible for testosterone synthesis. Vitamin B6 regulates prolactin, a hormone that, when elevated, suppresses male libido. More importantly, bananas contain bromelain, an enzyme that improves the bioavailability of other nutrients. This means that the active compounds in garlic are absorbed more efficiently when consumed together with banana. It's as if the banana were a natural enhancer of garlic's benefits. The third mechanism is sexual neuroplasticity. Here's a secret that few doctors know. Sexual function doesn't depend only on hormones and circulation, but also on efficient communication between brain and sexual organs. Tryptophan in bananas is converted to serotonin, which regulates not only mood, but also sexual response. When combined with the sulfur compounds in garlic, which protect neurons from oxidative stress, you have a dual action: neuroprotection and neurostimulation. This explains why my patients report not only physical improvement, but also renewal of sexual interest, more vivid fantasies, and greater emotional satisfaction with intimacy. But here's the crucial detail that differentiates success from failure. These three mechanisms only work fully when the combination is consumed in a specific way. It's not enough to eat garlic and banana anyway. The timing, preparation, and even the sequence of consumption drastically influence results. For example, consuming cooked garlic eliminates 90% of allicin. Eating very ripe bananas significantly reduces essential amino acids. Consuming at inappropriate times can even cause effects contrary to those desired. During my practice, I documented cases where men followed similar recipes found on the internet, but didn't get results because they ignored these fundamental details. Charles, one of my patients, tried for months to consume garlic in capsules with banana juice, without any success. When we adjusted to the correct protocol, in 2 weeks he was already noticing significant differences. This specific knowledge, developed through decades of observation and refinement, is what separates a serious scientific approach from amateur attempts without foundation. Throughout 4 decades of medical practice, I have documented hundreds of cases of men who transformed their lives following this protocol. Allow me to share some stories that illustrate the real power of this apparently simple but scientifically revolutionary combination. Charles came to my office in 2015 at 69 years old, diabetic for 15 years and completely discouraged. "Doctor, it's been 2 years since I could have a complete relationship with my wife," he confessed to me. "The diabetes medications make me weak, and the impotence remedies interact badly with my other medications. I feel like I'm disappointing the woman I've loved for 40 years. Charles represented a common dilemma. Men with multiple health conditions who find themselves trapped in a cycle of medications that treat one condition but harm other functions. His self-esteem was shattered and the marriage suffered in silence. We started the protocol gradually. In the first week, Charles reported improvement in morning disposition. In the third week, he noticed more frequent morning erections, something that hadn't happened in years. In the sixth week, he managed to have a complete and satisfactory sexual relationship. It was like going back in time 20 years, he told me, moved. My wife smiled in a way I had already forgotten. The most impressive thing was that his glucose levels also stabilized. The combination had improved his insulin sensitivity, allowing better diabetes control without additional medications. Charles lost 12 kilograms in 6 months, regained energy to walk, and felt like a complete man again. Another striking case was that of Anthony, 72 years old, hypertensive and taking 5 daily medications. In addition to impotence, he suffered from chronic fatigue, mild depression, and progressive loss of muscle mass. "Doctor, I feel like I'm just waiting for death to come," he broke down during our first consultation. Anthony had been widowed for 3 years, but had met a charming lady in the senior citizens group and felt embarrassed for not being able to correspond to her interest. "She deserves a real man, not a ghost like I've become," he said sadly. After 4 months of rigorously following the protocol, Anthony experienced a complete transformation. He not only recovered sexual vigor, even managing to start a healthy and satisfactory relationship, but also reduced his blood pressure medications by half, with full approval from his cardiologist. "Doctor, at 72 years old, I discovered that I can still be happy as a man," Anthony called me emotionally after 6 months. "It's not just the physical. It's as if I had recovered my identity, my confidence, my will to live fully." But perhaps the most touching case was that of Edward, 67 years old, retired, who came to me accompanied by his wife. "Doctor, our marriage is ending," she said directly. "Not for lack of love, but because my husband has completely closed himself off. He feels less of a man, and this is destroying our family." Edward had undergone prostate surgery 2 years earlier, and although the cancer had been eliminated, his sexual function was severely compromised. "I'd rather die than continue living like this," he admitted. "I can't even hug my wife without feeling like a failure as a husband." Edward's recovery was slower, but equally impressive. It took 8 months to recover full sexual function, but during this period, his depression improved dramatically. His energy returned, and most importantly, his marital relationship strengthened like never before. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. I'm going to reveal exactly the protocol I developed over decades of research and clinical observation. But first, I need to warn you about something crucial. Details make all the difference. Small variations can mean the difference between extraordinary results and complete failure. The protocol begins with the correct selection of ingredients. Not all garlic is equal. You should use organic, fresh garlic with firm cloves and no sprouts. The garlic should be at room temperature, never refrigerated, because cold reduces enzymatic activity. As for bananas, they should be at the ideal ripeness point, yellow with small brown spots, but still firm to the touch. Preparation is fundamental. Peel 2 medium garlic cloves and cut them into small pieces. Never use a processor or blender, as this destroys the cellular structure necessary for proper allicin release. Let the cut garlic rest for exactly 10 minutes at room temperature. This time is crucial to activate the allinase enzyme, which converts alliin to allicin. While the garlic rests, prepare the banana. Remove the peel and cut it into slices of approximately 1 centimeter thick. Use a fork to lightly mash the slices. Don't turn it into puree, but break the structure to facilitate nutrient release. The moment of consumption is critical. The protocol should be followed on an absolute empty stomach, preferably between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., when cortisol levels are naturally elevated and intestinal absorption is optimized. First, chew the garlic pieces well, at least 30 seconds per piece. Yes, the taste is strong, but it's essential for complete compound activation. Immediately after swallowing the garlic, consume the mashed banana. The banana serves not only as a source of nutrients, but also to neutralize the residual garlic taste and protect the stomach from irritation. Drink a glass of filtered water at room temperature, never cold, as cold can interfere with absorption. Wait at least 45 minutes before consuming any other food or drink. During this period, avoid coffee, tea, or any stimulating substance that could interfere with the absorption process. It's during this interval that the active compounds are being absorbed and beginning their work in the body. Frequency is non-negotiable. Every day, 7 days a week, for at least the first 3 months. After this initial period, you can reduce to 5 days a week, but never less than that. Consistency is absolutely fundamental to maintain therapeutic levels of active compounds in the body. Some fatal errors I've observed over the years: using garlic powder or capsules, ineffective; consuming with a full stomach, reduces absorption by 70%; using banana too green or too ripe, alters nutritional profile; taking with coffee, interferes with magnesium absorption; skipping days, breaks therapeutic continuity. Patients frequently ask me about breath. Yes, there will be residual garlic odor, especially in the first weeks. I recommend brushing teeth 30 minutes after consumption and chewing fresh parsley if necessary. Over time, the body adapts and the odor decreases significantly. Expected results: in the first 2 weeks, increased energy and disposition; in the 3rd week, improved sleep quality and more frequent morning erections; between the 4th and 6th week, renewed sexual interest and first improvements in performance. After 3 months, complete transformation in sexual and general vitality. You may be wondering, if this solution is so effective and scientifically proven, why isn't it widely known? Why has your doctor never mentioned this alternative? The answer will shock you and reveal how the current health system works against your true interests. The pharmaceutical industry moves more than $40 billion annually just with erectile dysfunction medications. Each pill costs cents to produce, but is sold for dozens of dollars. A man who uses these medications regularly spends, on average, more than $3,000 per year. Multiply this by millions of users around the world. Now imagine if all these men discovered they could solve the problem, spending less than $50 per month on garlic and banana. What would be the impact on these companies' profits? That's exactly why there's no interest in divulging or researching natural solutions that cannot be patented. Medical training is also influenced by this commercial logic. During the 6 years of medical school, students receive only a few hours of training in therapeutic nutrition, but are bombarded with information about synthetic medications. Medical conferences are sponsored by pharmaceutical laboratories. Continuing education is funded by the industry. The result? Well-intentioned doctors, but limited by a system that trains them to prescribe drugs, not to promote natural health. When a patient arrives with erectile dysfunction, the standard protocol is exams, diagnosis, prescription. They rarely question about diet, lifestyle, or natural solutions. There's also the issue of legal responsibility. A doctor who prescribes a medication approved by the FDA is legally protected, even if the medicine causes serious side effects. But if he recommends a natural solution and something goes wrong, even if unrelated, he can be questioned for alternative medicine. I've witnessed colleagues ridicule patients who mentioned improvements obtained with natural methods. Placebo effect, they say, ignoring solid scientific evidence. It's easier to dismiss than to investigate, especially when investigating can question decades of conventional practice. But the most disturbing thing is realizing how men are purposely kept dependent. Erectile dysfunction medications don't cure, they only temporarily mask the problem. You need to keep buying, month after month, year after year. It's a perfect business model. Captive customers who never really heal. Compare this with the natural approach I'm sharing. Once you correct the fundamental causes, circulation, hormones, vascular health, the results are lasting. You don't become dependent on anything other than cheap and accessible natural ingredients. How many men suffer unnecessarily because they're unaware of these alternatives? How many relationships are destroyed? How many lives are limited by an artificially created dependency? The truth is that there's a real conspiracy of silence around effective natural solutions. I'm not suggesting that all medications are unnecessary or that all doctors are ill-intentioned. There are situations where pharmacological interventions are necessary and save lives, but for most cases of sexual dysfunction related to aging, there are natural, safe, and more effective alternatives that are systematically ignored. That's why I decided to break this silence. At 40 years of career, with the security of experience and hundreds of documented cases, I feel duty-bound to share this information that can transform lives. I can no longer be complicit in a system that keeps men trapped in cycles of unnecessary dependency. We've reached the end of this journey of revelations, but for you, this is just the beginning of a transformation that can completely redefine your experience as a mature man. Everything I've shared here was born from 4 decades dedicated exclusively to men's health and hundreds of lives transformed by this knowledge. Robert, that 74-year-old man who came to my office in 1987 after 3 heart attacks, is now 89 years old. He still calls me regularly, not just to thank me, but to share how his life continues to be full and satisfying. A few months ago, he told me that his great-granddaughter was born, living proof that his vitality extended far beyond the sexual sphere, influencing all his longevity and quality of life. Doctor, he told me in our last conversation, that recipe from my grandfather didn't just save my sex life, it saved my entire life. It saved my marriage, my self-esteem, my will to live. Today I know I can reach 100 years being a complete man. Charles, the 69-year-old diabetic, now perfectly controls his glucose and maintains an active sex life at 79 years old. Anthony, the hypertensive who took 5 medications, reduced to just 2 and remarried at 77 years old. Edward, who almost lost his marriage after prostate surgery, now has a more intimate and strong relationship with his wife than he ever had. These are not exceptions. They are examples of what is possible when you understand and apply the correct principles of natural men's health. Each of these men face the same dilemma that perhaps you are facing now: passively accept decline or actively seek transformation. The choice is yours. You can continue believing that the loss of sexual vitality is inevitable after 60, that dependence on expensive medications is your only option, that your best phase as a man has already passed. Or you can decide that you deserve more, that you deserve to recover your strength, your confidence, your ability to satisfy and be satisfied. The protocol I revealed is not just about sex. It's about recovering your complete masculine identity. It's about waking up every morning feeling truly alive. It's about looking in the mirror and recognizing the strong man you always were. It's about regaining respect, especially self-respect. Remember, you don't need medical permission to consume garlic and banana. You don't need expensive prescriptions or complex treatments. Everything you need is available at any market or supermarket. The transformation is literally within reach of your hands. But I need to be clear about something. This is not a path for men seeking instant magical solutions. It's for mature, determined men who understand that real changes require consistency and discipline. It's for men who value lasting results more than immediate gratification. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes the truth of what I've shared. Trust that intuition. Your experience, your life wisdom, your ability to discern what is real from what is empty promise. All of this is confirming that you've found something genuinely valuable. Start tomorrow. 2 garlic cloves, 1 banana, on an empty stomach every day. Follow the protocol exactly. Be patient with the results, but consistent with the practice. In 3 months, you will no longer be the same man who watched this video today. Your wife, your children, your friends will notice the difference. But more importantly, you will feel complete again. You will recover that silent confidence that always defined your masculinity. You will rediscover that aging doesn't mean diminishing. It can mean evolving into an even better version of yourself. The transformation journey begins now. Welcome back to your best version.